Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from another wedding post who says, am I the arsehole for not allowing my friend to bring her service animal, guide dog, to my wedding? I, 28 female, will be getting married in September. I have a blind friend who mostly relies on her guide dog. The dog obviously has access rights to all places. Now, I'm in a sticky situation, and I can sense that I will be the arsehole. I have 3 chronic illnesses that I take 23 pills a day for. Severe asthma, and you guessed it, an extremely severe dog allergy. Usually when I meet with my friend, we meet in the open and I take 2 allergy pills. However, because of all the other medication I take, these pills make me extremely drowsy to the point where I'm officially not allowed to drive, and I usually crash as soon as I get home from our get-togethers. Our wedding will be very intimate, i.e. we'll be in a relatively small rooms. I feel horrible about this, but I don't think I can let my friend bring her dog. It just wouldn't work. I talked about it with my fiance and some friends. Finally, I talked to my friend about it, explained the situation and said I would love her to come, but she can't bring her dog. I said that 4 of our mutual friends has offered to be on a roster and assist her should she need it. Alternatively, if she is not comfortable with this, she should bring a person of her choosing to the wedding, or I'd pay for a professional aid for the day. I think it's important to note that a dog is not for any additional issues like seizures or anything like that. Unfortunately, she was less than happy with my suggestions. She accused me of being ableist and thinking her disability can be switched off for the day. I understand what I asked was a lot, and it's a difficult topic. I told her to tell me if she changes her mind and I'd be happy to make arrangements, but I won't budge. A commenter who was downvoted said to OP, no one's an arsehole here. Although I will point out, if the facility is that small, that you'll be incapacitated even with your RX when you shouldn't have invited her in the first place, and just told her it was really just family only. OP says I don't think that would have worked as 4 of our mutual friends who are not family are coming. Commenter says not the arsehole. It's an ESA, not a medical animal. I love dogs more than humans, but in this case, the dog can stay home and your friend needs a reality check. OP responded saying it's actually not an ESA, but a service animal. Commenter says, can I suggest an alternative? Can your friend have a service dog groomed right before the wedding, where they bathe and brush the dog with one of those Terminator type shampoo, conditioner or brush outs? It really helps cut down the shedding and would greatly help with the allergies that you have. OP says it wouldn't be enough. Someone asks, where are you located? And OP said South Australia. Someone asks, why would OP invite the friend if the guide dog cannot attend? OP says because she sometimes goes out without it. Not very often, but when it's at the vet's. Because she sometimes goes without her dog and we've been friends for 12 years. Not inviting her seems wrong. And then says she only has 10% vision. No seizures. Another commenter says, no one's an arsehole here. Just wondering how you became friends with her if you have a dog allergy and she's blind with a guide dog. OP says she only got the dog a few years ago. Commenter replied saying I see, but then can't she survive a day without the dog like she did before? OP says she can and does, but it's not my place to judge that. Now, I'm not sure if my comment's going to come across as ignorant here, so please call me out, as always, if it does, because, you know, I like to learn new things, absolutely, but it seems to me that OP is bending over backwards. You know, she's got an allergy so severe that she's on multiple pills for it a day, and if she takes these pills, she's going to get drowsy on her own wedding day. It seemed like to me that OP's trying to make all sorts of compromises to try and help. You know, you should be able to feel absolutely okay on your own wedding day, and OP's trying to find everything they can to still have their friend there without having to take these drugs that make her feel drowsy. Just an incredibly sucky situation to be in, but almost 2 months later, OP came in with an update and said, some of you may remember my post. Well, since I've got married. We decided to get married sooner than we planned because the situation was good where we live and we didn't want to risk having to cancel if numbers spike. They're referencing COVID here. Before I took your advice and called my friend, I explained how severe my allergies are once again and told her how I really want to be able to enjoy my wedding day. I apologized for making suggestions and not simply asking her, and said she is welcome to bring up any ideas that would help her being able to attend. She told me she still wanted to, that do not include her dog. She was adamant that it was her dog or nothing. While disappointed, I was prepared for that and told her that it would not be possible and that she will be missed at the wedding. We sent out the new invitations with the new date and simply didn't invite her, so technically she wasn't uninvited. So, some of our mutual friends that are in the wedding told me that she'd asked them not to attend in solidarity, but luckily they all thought that was ridiculous. We had a beautiful wedding and spent our honeymoon in the Flinders Ranges, which I can only recommend. As for my friend, I'm open to reconciliation, but she will have to make the first step. So that's it. While it didn't go as I hoped it would, I'm still in a happy place now, enjoying my life as a married woman. Commenter says to OP, yes, you are the arsehole. Your friend was wrong to try and sabotage your wedding, but you asked a person with a disability and a service dog to not bring the dog. You are actually in violation of the Americans with Disability Act. A service dog has the legal right to go anywhere the handler goes. I once called the police on a restaurant that was refusing to allow a service dog citing health laws. Trying to explain the requirements for service dogs, they still refused. The police intervened and the individual and I had a lovely dinner. Apologies are needed from both sides. I hope he says this wasn't in the US and it wasn't a public place. Commenter says, just a question. How are you able to be friends with her outside of your wedding if she has a guide dog? Surely it accompanies her wherever she goes. Were you exclusively friends online or via phone? I hope he says we've been friends long before she got her dog. Commenter says, in quotes, she asked them not to attend in solidarity and then says, if there was any doubt about your friend. This cleared things up. I'm happy you got to enjoy your wedding. Congratulations. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the Relationship Advice subreddit and says, found my close friend, 31 female, on Bumble a month before her wedding. My work wife from my first job has been a close friend of mine for years. We still hang out at least a couple of times a week. She's engaged to a guy who I really like and is getting married in May. Yesterday, a friend of mine found her on Bumble and texted me screenshots. I sent them to her asking if there is something I should know, and she replied that they must be from when she was still single and that she probably forgot to turn it off. Thing is, I recognize the pictures and they're recent. My girlfriend and I are even in one of them. I had spoken to her fiance earlier that day about bachelor party plans and everything sounded like it's very much still on. Some of our friends have joked that she can do better. She's really attractive and makes great money, while he's very much the blue collar type, but he treats her like a princess, a big upgrade from the trash fuckboy she's dated in the past. I get the feeling she's having second thoughts and looking around again. I'm kinda conflicted on whether or not I should bring this up, and if I do, whether I should talk to her or him about it. She's a close friend, and if things don't work out, it's her side that I'll take. But I've been in toxic relationships before and can't help but think I'd feel very guilty if he marries her next month without knowing she's not fully invested. Any advice on how I should approach this, or should I just leave it alone? Commenter says, and quotes part of OP's post saying, some of our friends have joked that she can do better, she's really attractive and makes great money, while he's very much the blue collar type, and then says, these friends are really shit people and you should get rid of them. OP says, I couldn't agree more. They're a group we work or worked with, not people I care much to spend time with outside of that world. Milk Churn says, okay, I'm going to go against the grain here for a sec and share a personal story that I feel is relevant. I had a friend message me once on Facebook and say, oh, I saw you on Bumble, didn't realize you and ex had split. We had split, but I hadn't used Bumble in well over a year. I did some research and Bumble account needs to be actively deactivated. Just deleting the app or not using it doesn't stop your profile being shared. Ever. So she could be right. Now onto the pictures. Where were they? An updated profile pic is fishy as fuck. However, if they're in the social media gallery and she has uploaded them to Instagram, etc., Bumble will automatically update those pics. So she could legitimately have not used the app for months or even years, but is still appearing to other users with updated Instagram pics attached. I would talk to her first. When this happened to me, I was single, but I was still really embarrassed. Mostly because I had lost weight since I created the profile and had moved to a new area. So the first impression of me to all the new guys in town was me ignoring them on Bumble, where I was fatter in most of the pictures. I was glad I was told because I was not aware that your profile remains active, even if you don't use it. And the top commenter says, I know plenty of people might say stay out of it, and I understand that to some degree. But all I can think is that if I were that guy, I would hope someone would tell me that information before I get married to a person like her. And it was sometime later that OP came back into the post and says, after some back and forth about whether I should leave it alone, I decided to bring it up with her again today at happy hour. Plan was to frame it as, I know that's not an old profile from the pictures, just wanted to make sure you're okay. Turns out, I didn't have to. She came clean about it before I even had the chance to broach the subject. She's had some really serious political and lifestyle arguments with her fiancé in the last month, and while she still cares for him, isn't sure she can see herself wanting to have children with someone whose values are so radically different from hers. He and I have never talked politics much, but I knew he was pretty far to the left while she's a social liberal / fiscal conservative. But apparently he's also vehemently against giving any vaccination to any future kids they might have, which he had never mentioned before. Not just COVID, any immunizations at all. I can't say I'd be comfortable marrying someone in that situation either. In regards to the Bumble profile, she was out of town for work a couple of weeks ago and got into a big fight with him over the phone and made the profile later that night while drinking at the hotel bar out of frustration. She feels guilty about doing it and deleted the app when she got home, but didn't realize that meant the profile would still be up. She says she didn't actually go out with anyone but got a bunch of matches. It kind of served as verification to her that she still had options. She asked what would I do if I were in her situation, and I gave her the honest response that I'd end it before it was too late and things got out of hand. For the record, I'm not the only one she talked to about this, and she says she got the same advice from family and another close friend, so she's calling off her engagement tomorrow. Hoping my girlfriend and I can help her pick up the pieces. Shame it didn't work out, but knowing the whole story, I think it's for the best. And there was a lot of mixed opinions below this one. The main ones basically said, and it covered a lot of people's thoughts, I think. I don't like anyone in this story. The fiancé for his views, the friends for creating the account while in a relationship, OP for using the term work wife, and then just said they all suck. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's have another story. Now, our next story comes from Throwaway Frisbee. The title in itself had me like, what the fuck's going on here? It said, am I the arsehole here for telling my father-in-law he can't hump the floor at my house or in my presence? Crazy title, and I wish it weren't true, but here we are. Unfortunately, I'm asking because I'm possibly in a state of being gaslit or actually can't take a joke and I can't see it. My father-in-law, late 50s, is known for being very playful. Goofy, some would even say. Well, him, my mother-in-law, late 50s, and 3 sibling in-laws, 20 male and 27 male, 28 female, married couple, came to stay with my husband and I at our home, 28 female, 30 male, and to see our new little one, 7 months. Well, the little one was put to bed and we were all in the living room area hanging out, doing stretches, just casually talking, when father-in-law decided it'd be funny to start humping the ground out of nowhere. And unfortunately, it was directed in front of me, not mother-in-law. Mother-in-law and I looked at each other in shock while his children all laughed and chuckled. Father-in-law made it clear that the gesture was meant for his wife despite it being directly in front of me, with eye contact. So we dropped it. The night passed, they left town, and after a few days of not being able to shake the image out of my head, I decided to talk with my husband about how uncomfortable it made me, along with other sexual jokes he makes about us, all being married and etc. There's been this big divide now on how I'm always ruining the fun, how it was just a joke and not a sexual gesture, and how I always find a problem when my husband's family is in town. His family thinks this, however. When I speak with my mum, sisters, cousins, and anyone on my side of the world, They see his jokes and gesture as totally inappropriate. My father-in-law tried to make the point that I'd done TikTok dances in his home with the other sibling-in-laws and my husband, and he's never felt uncomfortable because he knows they're harmless, and that it's not fair for me to judge him about this versus knowing his intent, which was to just make a joke. My point is, even though I'm not on TikTok and I don't post videos, everything I've done is postable. Him slow stroking the ground is not. My husband got mad at me for not seeing it as a joke, and so did the other married siblings who were in the room that were raised by father-in-law. So am I the arsehole here for saying that my father-in-law humping the floor in my home/presence made me uncomfortable and drawing that boundary? I genuinely would appreciate feedback because I plan to have another conversation soon, and I want to know that I'm coming into the conversation grounded in reality. I'm just like, how are you the problem in this situation? Dude's fucking humping the floor, making you uncomfortable, and somehow you're the issue in this. And how does a TikTok dance, how's that anyway comparable to humping the floor? And what the hell was the joke in this situation? I mean, weird. Outrageous says, can your husband explain the joke to you and his mother? And father-in-law, because I don't get it either. Just straight up gross. Opie says this is a good point, and I'm wondering if I should actually ask to see what the response is. Yes, you should ask. Pristine says not the arsehole. Your in-laws are weird as fuck for enabling this behavior. Your husband is weird for getting upset you didn't get the joke. What the fuck? His father made you uncomfortable. I'd be sick to my stomach if my father-in-law did that. And your husband's reaction is to get upset with you instead of address it with his dad. Gross. All around gross. Opie says I agree that the whole family is weird. Husband included. It definitely has made me wonder if something happened in the home that makes this seem normal. Rare Low says, why did you have a baby with someone before you examined these questions? Opie says, this is my favorite question because never in a million years would I thought I would needed to ask, does your dad hump floors and this is funny to you? Never. I'm just as shocked. Truthfully, what makes this even worse is that we're a very religious community. He's an elder deacon in the church. We're all churchgoers, worship leaders, musicians, all the things. So I had absolutely no reason to think this would ever come up. Until it did. Another commenter says, in my experience, the devout Christians are some of the sickest sexual deviants, and calling them out gets you the creepy gaslighting that you're experiencing. So Opie comes in with an update and says, all aboard for the Hot Mess Express. Firstly, thank you to all the responses. I genuinely appreciate the kind, blunt, informative, funny, and not so nice comments because truly I was looking for all perspectives. It felt reassuring to see that the majority, not all of you, felt like it was in fact inappropriate, gross, weird, odd, sick, and especially having folks that aren't like me, religious, jokesters, etc., still see the behavior as not the best. This is a 24-hour update. So the reason I followed up with my father-in-law, mother-in-law wasn't because father-in-law never apologized. He did. Reluctantly, but he did. I followed up with them because of one particular event that happened on the first phone call when my husband, yes, although mad at me, told them that I was uncomfortable. My father-in-law's immediate response to my husband and I saying I was uncomfortable was that he, father-in-law, was uncomfortable with the fact that I was uncomfortable, and that this all made him feel bad because it's not fair that I was uncomfortable. He apologized, and truly it could have stopped right there because truly he's entitled to his feelings. But it didn't stop there. It got back to me that he was telling the other in-laws, siblings, how I couldn't have fun. I ruined the fun when they're around. He's uncomfortable because I'm looking at him like that, and that it hurts because I don't know him better, etc, etc, etc. Stuff came up about the TikTok dances and how there was room for interpretation regarding them being inappropriate. Let me clear one thing up. Imagine dances like Millie Rock, Shoot, Doogie, 2000s hip hop. Imagine church dances that you see in African American culture, since we're religious, like shouting, praising, that. There was no twerking, jiving, or gyrating. There was maybe 6, max 8 videos, and half of them were religious orientated. Nothing seductive, fully clothed, very appropriate. And actually there hasn't been a video of me dancing, nor have I danced there in maybe the last 2 to 3 years. So let's just place that there. Okay, him feeling upset wasn't a problem. It was the talking to the in-laws and word getting back to me, and me being questioned about why I can't enjoy the moments and the jokes. It was the why can't you be happy around them? I explained that our beliefs and values don't align to my brother-in-law, which is who came to me, but for me, this meant one thing clearly. I can't say, I'm uncomfortable, and that simply be received. All of the side talk, brother-in-law confirmed, showed me one thing. There clearly was tension and things being spoken, so my husband suggested I speak with my in-laws versus immediately separating myself. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Let's just talk it out and see. How did the conversation go? As you would expect. Terrible. My in-laws were incredibly irate and yelled majority of the time. That part hurt them the most was me talking to my mother, who's part of the church community. Talking to her meant that I, in their words, exposed him, and now she sees father-in-law in a different light. Their words. One part of the conversation sounded like this. Father-in-law said, "How would you feel if I told folks you prostitute?" I said, "I would feel like that's a lie." He said, "Exactly, that's how I feel." Opie said, "Except I didn't lie about anything. I just told my mum the facts and how it made me feel." Mother-in-law said, "Well, OP doesn't feel like she lied, so she doesn't understand." I said, "Where was the lie? I only told the facts." Father-in-law said, "But OP, you made me look bad." Mother-in-law said, "Yeah, OP, you've shown him in a different light, and that doesn't show his character. He has a good heart." And says a lot of our conversations sounded like that. I'm also realizing a lot of the conversation was rooted in bullying, and that's the nice way of me saying it. Some of the comments sounded like, "We can joke with all our married friends and married children about sexual conversation, but we see we can't do that with you." Mother-in-law said that. "We just can't make any jokes around you, so I guess we probably need to be careful with how we talk. I don't know how I'll act around you now." Again, mother-in-law said that. "What you did was bad and you shouldn't have told your family." Father-in-law said that. To this point, all they know is that I talked to my mum. And what's interesting about this is when I asked who I should have spoken to about my discomfort, the response was, "Well, we're not saying who you can talk to, but you shouldn't have told anybody about this. You could have come talk to mother-in-law." I told them I wasn't safe to talk to mother-in-law because of what I'm seeing in real time with the conversation we're having. Reddit readers, I say it was a bunch of yelling and insulting, saying don't be dumb, what you did is bad, etc. I'm not kidding. I told them, in the future I hope the in-laws, their children's spouses can come to them when something makes them uncomfortable and it be received. They said, "Aren't you being received now?" I said no, I'm being met with screaming, insults, threats of being cut off. Father-in-law said this, and that this is emotionally unsafe. I said that even with expressing myself, father-in-law is only getting angrier. He agreed. He explained that he's the adult and that I should listen, and that's my problem. I shouldn't have talked to anyone. It made him look bad. He said that he doesn't want to talk to me and will move differently with me. He no longer wants to come over to our home. Thank the heavens. He yelled these things, and when I asked him to stop yelling, he said, "No, I'm mad." When I asked could he stop insulting, he said, "No, maybe we don't need to talk." I said, "You're right. We don't if we can't respect each other." He said, "OP, you need to respect me." I said, "Grab control." He said, "You grab control." We ended the call with him repeating "leave me alone" and crying very hard while yelling. I'm not kidding. Now let me say this. I never raised my voice, insulted, or overtalked anyone because I've seen this with my other sister-in-law, married into the family like me. It's easy to feel provoked and get into a screaming match, but when you're cool as a cucumber emotionally, that sends them over the edge. And that's what happened, and unfortunately, I documented the conversation for proof. How did it end? Father-in-law kept repeating, "OP, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone," and I told him he's an autonomous being and that he's able to hang up the phone anytime he wants, so after saying "leave me alone" at least 4 to 5 times, he hung up. I called my husband, who was not present for this conversation and didn't want to be, and simply told him the conversation was rough. Or at least, that's what he told me, and I could tell the conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. My husband was overwhelmed with everything, and honestly, I think some of you were spot on. He named the joke, sexual gesture, humping the ground, as inappropriate with me privately, but when he heard himself, after I reconfirmed, he said, "No, you, OP, said it was inappropriate." He's done this a few times, so I really do believe he sees that it wasn't appropriate. I just think he's struggling to say it because that goes against all he's been taught and whatever else happened in that home. Lastly, I'll say this. A few things happened on the phone call with the in-laws that felt off, and these were. One father-in-law named all the children-in-laws and stated they all make these sexual jokes, and he said, "Why is it that even though I make them the most, you pick me out of them and you feel uncomfortable?" I told him I feel uncomfy when anybody does it, and I've spoken about it, but the humping took it too far, and now I'm bringing it to the forefront because there is a power dynamic. He's a father, an elder, deacon, leader, grandfather, etc., not a peer. 2. They questioned why I'm trying to make father-in-law look bad. I asked why the joke is not what made him look bad. Why is it me talking to my mother, the part that makes them upset, and feel as though he looks bad? 3. I asked if their daughter dealt with this with her father-in-law. How would they feel? Would they want her to feel comfortable talking to them? No answer. Only she can talk to her own mother-in-law. 4. They've said I've made them uncomfortable before in the past for things like arguing with my husband in their home in their presence, and they talked to us about it at the time, years ago. I said yes, and you all told us it made you uncomfy and we resolved it. Why am I not able to do the same? They responded, because you're blowing this up. I asked how. They said, because you talked to your mum. They found that out on the phone call, even though they came in yelling and told their children, my in-laws. This is long, so I'll stop here. There won't be a TLDR because how? Shake my head. Nonetheless, ask all the questions and help make sense of something that really doesn't make sense. I will be and am being honest as I possibly can, and I recognize this is a hot mess, but unfortunately, I can't make this stuff up. I'll respond to the comments. Tell me your thoughts. Nah, they just basically don't like this information's got out, and it does come across as weird as fuck. This isn't about a joke, it's about control and your father-in-law's fragile ego being bruised because someone's finally called out that behavior. But yeah, what you said, absolute hot mess. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in the